First time I saw Srila Prabhupada was, I believe it was 1967 or 68, and he had just come to San Francisco. And there was a meeting that was called by the mayor's office of various groups around the Haight-Ashbury area and the city of San Francisco. They were anticipating thousands and thousands of kids coming to San Francisco, Summer of Love. So I was with a group called the Diggers. We were kind of a revolutionary group that would beg, borrow, or steal food and set up free kitchens in the Golden Gate Park and so forth. And we had a storefront at 520 Frederick Street. And as it turns out, the devotees opened the storefront right next door at 518 Frederick Street. And at this meeting, they had the mayor of the city, the chief of police, various medical personnel from hospitals. They had a couple of other yoga groups that were there. There were about 15 people there. And I was there with another fellow representing the Diggers. And Prabhupada came there with Hayagriva. And everybody there made their presentation, what they were going to do to help and so forth. And it came time for Prabhupada to talk. And Prabhupada pointed to Hayagriva and said, "You talk." And Hayagriva told about the temple that we were doing, and I don't quite remember the conversation. But even at this point, I just kept looking at this little Indian fellow who was just sitting there. And, he was just kind of moving his head back and forth and just listening to Hayagriva. And then they brought out a plate of fruits, like to give to everybody who was there as a guest. And Hayagriva picked it up and offered it to Srila Prabhupada first. And Prabhupada picked a grape up and he threw it in the air, like threw it right in his mouth. And it was like, I was sitting next to him, and it was the most amazing thing in the world to see that. And that was the first time that I ever seen Srila Prabhupada. It was just an amazing thing. I'd never seen anybody do that. It was quite incredible. Then the Diggers were invited to go out to there was a gentleman named Lou Gottlieb who had a farm outside, I think in Sausalito, called Morning Star Ranch. And this fellow came and invited the Diggers to come out there and, farm it and do things like that. So I went out there to live at that farm, and I'd go back and forth to San Francisco from there. And then one day we heard that the devotees from the temple were going to come out there to the Morning Star Ranch. And Prabhupada was going to come out there. So we didn't know what to expect, or nobody really understood what he was doing. We used to go in the parks, and we used to see him chanting there, and I used to go around, stand around the kirtans there, but nobody had really had any direct contact with him. And we had built a platform, a little vyasasana for him in the woods, on top of a hill, underneath a cross that was out in the woods there on the guy's property. And I remember going out and picking Scotch broom flowers, which are a yellow flower, and decorating the thing for Prabhupada there. And so Prabhupada was picked up by this fellow Lou Gottlieb in the city in a Volvo, and Lou told me the story that he said to Prabhupada, put your seatbelt on. And Prabhupada said something like, Krishna is my seatbelt. He remembered that, he told me that story. So Prabhupada got there, and I happened to be in the garden. Just, I don't know if you can say this on tape, but it was, most of the people walked around with no clothing on or anything like that up there. I happened to be in a garden when Prabhupada arrived. I was digging potatoes in the garden there. And Lou Gottlieb brought him over, and there I was, and shook Prabhupada's hand. I was standing there, and Prabhupada did say, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm digging potatoes." He said, "No, what are you doing with your life?" And I don't even remember what I said. I do remember what he said, but I don't remember what I answered there. And then we went, everybody went, and Prabhupada went up to the hill there and chanted. And the thing about, after Prabhupada left there, every evening all the people who were living there used to gather together for a common meal. And we'd all stand around holding hands, and we'd just stay there, with eyes closed, not doing anything, But that very evening, in that meal, everybody started chanting Hare Krishna. And that became one of the things there. On that farm, there were many other, at the time, Vishnu John lived there, Tamal Krishna lived there, Madhavisa, so many people became devotees off of that farm because of Srila Prabhupada's visit there, and the enthusiasm for the chanting and so forth.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,